Number 4 is what I call distraction and poor investments. Now, these are very similar to the impact of the cost of doing business, but I believe it warrants a section of its own and the details around this. Now, a caveat I want to begin with is, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, and you're watching this, there's a good chance you're highly creative, full of ideas, full of aspirations for where you want to take your business in terms of its locations, its offerings, and the people you deal with. I don't want to stifle that through what you're about to listen to and about to view. But at the same time, I want to make sure you go through that with a 2020 vision of what those investments have in terms of responsibilities to you as a business owner and responsibilities and impact that has to your business. When we look at growth, a fantastic book I read around 12, 13 years ago was called The Sticking Point Solution by a guy called Jay Abraham. And at the very end of that book, he talks about the 3 core ways of which to grow your business, and he looks to do one of these each year. Is either develop a new product, explore a new market, or acquire another business. And when you're asking yourself as a business owner those questions in those 3 areas, you instinctively look at the positive, the opportunity, the chances, the profitability that could occur from success in those regions. All I'm asking in this situation is also be realistic around the cost and the impact this has on the outflows in your business. Now we've gone through that intro, I'm going to ask you to put your pessimistic hat on for a moment as we go through the risks of making investments within your business. And as we touched on, there's 2 types of risk. There's the distraction risk and the financial risk. 2 of the greatest business owners and entrepreneurs that you would have heard of, Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. I almost called him Warren Gates. That would be someone who's very good with money and computers. They had an interview together and they got asked, what is the other person's strength? And they both said, focus. So Bill, obviously, his ability to focus on Microsoft and building great software, and Warren's ability to focus on investing in great businesses and pure focus in there. Looking at investing beyond what you do currently in your business, as you were saying, whether it's a new product, a new location, or an acquisition, is you're adding an extra diversion for your attention as to what it is currently. And then there's the financial risk. As you were saying before, very similar to cost of doing business increasing, is these investments you're going to make or these opportunities you're going to explore is going to increase your expenses, increase your break even, and potentially drain your resources around cash and equity. Let's look at an example of distraction. So someone we work with had a long established business in their home state, and they wanted to set up a new operation on the other side of the country. And that led to a lot of distraction for one of their key salespeople, who was also one of the owners and managers of the business. So firstly, his travel expense for the year was around about $150,000. And I can assure you, he was not traveling business class and staying in 5-star hotels. That was the volume of travel back and forth on midnight flights and also probably pretty average accommodation to handhold the growing of that side of the business. Also, they had additional challenges with employing salespeople, employing operational people, additional rent. So all these costs impacted their break even. Now, they were in a position where we were able to plan for those investments, but it took a heck of a lot longer to get to where they wanted to be because of those different challenges. And it also had an opportunity cost of what impact that had on their home state and home location for their business. But at the very least, they understood what they were on the hook for in terms of new people, property, and outlays to get started, but also the opportunity cost of the distraction of that key team member or shuttling between one side of the country and the other on pretty much a weekly basis. The other element of the distraction is the financial risk associated. And that's often the first area you go, the money I could lose, let alone the distraction that we just spoke about. So a business we work with, again, they had a home base in a part of Australia and they wanted to break into a new market. And when we started working with them, they'd already sunk around $420,000 into this new area. Now, to their credit, they had tracked all the costs that had gone to this area. So there was a complete warts and all understanding of what they'd invested in terms of wages, property, and all the other associated costs with setting up this new location. They were also incurring around about $24,000 out the door each month. So in 18 months, they incurred around $420,000 worth of costs, but now it had stabilized to around about $24,000 of costs going out the bank every single month. We asked ourselves two questions. How much revenue do we think we can achieve per month from this location? And what is the gross profit on the product we're selling in this region? So bearing in mind that we'd invested $420,000 worth of expenses into this location, we were at zero sales. It wasn't even as if we were bringing in $1 of revenue. We thought aggressively, not conservatively, aggressively, we could do $50,000 per month on average over the next 3 years. And because all production was out of the same location, we were exporting to this new location, the cost of doing business, the gross profit, would be roughly the same, which was 35%. So we worked out over the next 3 years, if we averaged $50,000 of revenue per month and 35% GP with ongoing costs of $24,000 per month, plus the sunk costs of $420,000, you know where this is heading, is in 3 years' time, they would have a net loss of over $1.3 million in this location. You can imagine what we did. We made the very swift decision to shut it down completely. And the benefit was twofold. Firstly, we avoided that big loss in the future, but also the $24,000 of costs per month that weren't going out. At a 35% GP, it meant our break even reduced by about $68,500. So the financial risk diminished completely as a result of moving on from that decision. But as I said at the start, this video is not designed to scare you off from making any form of investment or anything proactive in your business, but it's important to recognize when you're in a position that is going to set you up for failure as opposed to a position that's going to allow you to succeed. The reality of the situation, I think, is best encapsulated from a conversation I heard from a business administrator. So a business administrator is someone who goes in to essentially a dying business to help try to survive it so that the people who are owed money can get some money back from that business. Now, what an administrator does is it tries to strip away all the superfluous elements of the business to focus on the core business. Now, how many times have you heard that either in the news or read it in a newspaper or read it in an article saying the reason the business failed is it went away from its core business? These anecdotes are not designed to scare you off, as I was saying before, but it's to heighten the importance of understanding what these decisions you make have on the break even and the financial position of your business. And in reality, the reason why businesses die once they've been around for a little while and proven that their concept is viable in the market. And what was most interesting from that administrator is he said there's generally something to salvage in every single situation. There's enough of the core business to allow it to continue to run, but in a far more abbreviated and simpler form. And I think that speaks powerfully to the power of distraction and the financial risk around making investments in your business. But as I keep saying, make sure you don't use this as a way to say, I'm never doing anything again and paralysis by analysis. We have to make sure that when we make an investment decision, we are smart around what we're willing to put in versus what we're going to get out of that investment and when are we going to stop. Let's look at those factors now. What we need to do as business owners, firstly, I'm at pains to say it, but again, don't take this as never do anything proactive, developmentary, or investments within your business. But you have to go into it eyes wide open. It ties back, as always, what is the impact going to be on my break even, number one? How does that break even impact my overall business? So if my business today has a $400,000 a month break even, and if I want to break into a new market, my overall business break even goes to 500 grand, I have to be able to win that work locally to begin with while the new location is getting up to speed, or incur the costs associated with getting it closer and over that $500,000. Other elements around this are more psychological. You have to be honest with yourself. Set a target for when you expect to be break even and beyond in a location, and determine before you start what you are willing to invest. And if you get to that point and you can't foresee it to be reasonably recouped at some point in the future, you have to stop. It is one of the fastest and quickest ways to destroy your business is to continue to throw money at a situation purely out of the desire for something to work, as opposed to throwing it down and going, I'm going to walk away from this situation and cut my losses. That is not an easy conversation to have. We've had that at least twice over the journey, and one I've given you an example of before around the $24,000 a month going out. It is not an easy conversation. It impacts people's lives. But at the same time, your ultimate responsibility is to the business itself. And without a successful business, there's going to be no people around to support anyway. So in summary, make sure you know what you're willing to invest in totality. Set that benchmark before you get started and hold yourself accountable.